Okay, today we're going to work on practicing how to draw hair. And hair can be a bit of a challenge, so we're going to start by creating a quick practice portrait that we can try out some hairstyles on. So first thing I'm going to do is draw this egg shape. If that doesn't feel like it's super quick for you, another quick way to do this can be to start with a circle and then to kind of draw a triangle coming off of it, and then to kind of round it out into more of that pointy egg shape. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to erase some of these extra lines that I don't need anymore. So however you get to this oval or egg shape, that's what we're going to start out with. And now I'm going to quickly define the proportions and give it some basic features. And by doing this, this is also a great way to kind of solidify what you've learned and learn some ways to draw a portrait a little bit faster. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add a neck. We always want to do this next so that you don't ever have a floating head unless that's really what you're going for. Then I can add a little bit of this muscle that connects the head to the shoulders, and I can create just a slightly sloping line here that then might slope off a little bit more on each side if you have room. All right, now I'm going to divide my head into half for the eyes. All right, so halfway will be the eye line. Then I'm going to do about half of that half for the bottom of the nose, and then I'll put in kind of a line here to mark where the mouth is going to be. And again, that's going to be about halfway up from that quarter there at the bottom. So we've got 1/8, 1/4, 1/2. All right, then we're going to go ahead and lay in where the ears are going to be, just these long kind of slivers of ovals. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to kind of lightly erase where this eye line is going to be, but right on top of that, I'm going to kind of lightly give this kind of shape. This is going to define kind of where the lash line is going to be. Then in here for this bottom of the nose, I'm just kind of shading underneath the nose like so. I can give a little bit of that kind of shadow to it. I can also shade here at the top of the nose, in between the eyes. And here I'm going to shade the upper lip, and then I'm going to shade underneath the mouth. So now we've just discovered a really, really fast way to do a face without a lot of detail. So this could be a face from far away. Now, in addition to that, I'm going to define the edges of the face a little bit. So kind of a straight line here, and then shading a little bit under the cheekbones. And then I could also take that down to here, around where the jawline would be. So again, that would line up right there. And then I can shade a little bit around that jawline and a little bit around the sides of the face. So now I've just given that just a little bit more shading there. Okay, now I'm going to switch to a narrow but slightly darker pencil so you can see a little bit more details coming in. If I want to give more details for the ears, I'm going to create this shape and then that and that. So to make that a little bit larger, what I did was this shape. If this is a little bit too pointy, I can just round that out a little bit. But see how this is a little bit thicker at the top, goes in a little bit and then comes out again. And I can have that create that kind of shape. In here, I can have that little bloop that comes out a little bit before we've got the earlobe down here. All right. And if we need to, we can define the edges of the face just a little bit more. Now see how this is kind of an angle here next to the face, and then it angles again here. So we can soften this, but that's where that angle is really occurring. And the same thing here. And I'm trying to make it so that this face is a little bit more symmetrical. So if I notice that the two sides of the face have gotten a little bit out of whack, I'm just adding or subtracting just a little bit where I might see them seem to be a little bit off. So I can widen or narrow just to make them a little bit more even with one another. All right, so now I've got a really quick face. All right, to finish this off, and again, I want to make sure my neck is just a little bit thinner than the jawline. So since my jawline ended up being a little bit on the narrower side, I can bring in the neck just a little bit. If I want to make sure this person's wearing a t-shirt, I'm just sketching out that kind of very simple shape that we did before to give them an ellipse. All right, and again, we can get rid of some of these lines where we may not need them. But in here, there might be a little bit of shading. All right, so I won't spend a lot more time giving this more shading and that kind of thing. But here, if that's the lash line, I would have the details of the tear duct and the iris. And see how narrow the eyes can really be. You don't have to make them really big and round. Okay, so now I've got this blank head to work on. So the next thing I'm going to ask you to do is to watch the video tutorial that I've passed out to you about doing different hairstyles. And I think that does a really great job of helping you find where this hairline should be. There's a great technique that artist talks about that she calls shadow lining that'll help you lay in this hairline in a way that can make it have the right texture so that hair isn't going to create a really smooth line across the forehead. She calls her way of laying that in shadow lining. And she's going to go through a lot of the basic principles as she draws different hairstyles. So watch through at least the beginning of the video. She's going to start out with a short hairstyle, but even if you have longer hair, watch the beginning part where she talks about finding the correct proportions, and even how she talks about outlining some different parts of the hairstyle. So you can then skip to a part where she's doing, say, a hairstyle that is more like yours if you have longer hair. But I would say watch that first part of the video on fast forward, even if that's not the hairstyle that you're going to ultimately draw. And then you can practice whatever hairstyle you want on this blank face, and you could even, this kind of generic fast face that we did, you could even do a few more of these so you can practice different hairstyles and get confident before you attempt putting the final hair on your portrait.